You might get a notification there. All right. Good morning, everyone. My name is Jason Eilenfeld. I'm with Social Studies School Service and Active Classroom, and I'm here to work with you guys this morning to kind of get you guys prepped for summer school and utilizing Active Classroom. As Brandon mentioned, this is not a program that replaces a teacher. So I know there's a lot of software out there where it's like, okay, you just put the kids on, they do the assignments and turn them in, and that's it. And there's no teacher interaction. A lot of studies, if you look at it, find that having the teacher interacting with students while they're working the digital technology, the technology piece really enhances student achievement. And so that's what we believe at Active Classroom. And I think you guys are going to like what you see in here today. There's a lot of different ways to deliver the content. You guys will have access. You can connect this to your Canvas account and sync your classes, your summer school classes in there. I believe if they roster your summer school classes, they should link into your Canvas, and I'll show you guys how to do that as well. But we're going to look at, some of the strategies and things like that, and just you get the content, you look at it, and you're like, okay, now what do I do with this? How do I make this interactive? How do I make this engaging for my students? So I'm going to post a question here first, and this is in the Mentimeter. So if you guys have not joined the Mentimeter, you will want to join it now. So the link there is at the top of the screen. It tells you menti.com, and then there's an 8-digit passcode to get in. And I also dropped the link into the chat box, which I will again now, just in case it doesn't show up for the people that just joined. But I've posted a question for you. So in your opinion, what should summer school look like? If you could post your response in the Menti there, it should automatically refresh. Engaging and motivational. That's good. Yeah, you tend to have some students that may be normally and regularly disengaged from, kind of regular classes. Engaging for the students, they don't mind being there. Yeah, I mean, you guys fortunate enough that you're getting paid to be there. These students, these poor guys and girls are not, experiencing that. So yeah, kind of keeping them interested and saying, okay, I know you're missing out on summer activities. So let's try to make this engaging for them. Interactive and skill-based. Okay, fun but focused. Yep, active. Reteach, recall. Summer school should look like differentiation. Absolutely. I think with Active Classroom, you guys are going to see some ways that you have opportunities to do like groups of students. So if you have students that are working at a different pace, you can assign them different types of activities, different reading levels, different things like that, as well as you could do individual. I mean, it's a lot of work for you. You could do individual learning plans for students, but I think you'll find that a lot of these activities can really be attainable, and especially some of the ones that I've set up for us to go through today. You'll see how that you can kind of scaffold these and you can engage students where they are and get them involved in kind of these group discussions and things like that. Extremely targeted to major standards due to limited time. Yep. Helping, and I'll show you guys how you can search by TEKS as well to find specific targeted assignments. Helping students reach gaps in learning through fun and interactive lessons, making them want to be there. That's excellent. Active, fast-paced. A time for students to engage with teacher on a deeper level. Summer school should look like interventions in small groups so each student can get the attention they need. Great. Lots of good response here. Engaging, interesting, and meaningful. Engaging, and more time for students who need it. Motivating students to complete work and learn. Not too frustrating. Engaging, recall, and reteach. In my opinion, summer school should be engaging, meaningful, and student-centered. I love that term right there, student-centered. It should be interactive and empower the students in their own learning. Great responses, guys. You guys are wonderful. Thank you so much for sharing your responses there. I've got another poll question that'll pop up, and I want you guys to rank these activities and ones that you'd most likely to use and least likely to use in summer school. So I've got simulations. I imagine I'm going to get a different response from my middle school teachers versus my high school teachers on that one. Decision-making activities, mapping or atlas type activities, readings, PowerPoints, and then primary source analysis. As I put DBQ there, but I imagine with summer school, you're probably not going to have a lot of times to engage in full-blown DBQs where these students are going to be looking at 20, 30 sources and picking apart and constructing a full essay. Oh, looks like I have somebody joining us here. Okay, getting lots of responses here. Good. So I'm noticing a trend here. I see the mapping activities, decision-making, primary source. What I noticed from this is that some of you guys are thinking more on the visual side of things to really connect with those visual type learners. And that's usually a pretty solid approach, because I think the vast majority from some studies that I've looked at, vast majority of students, one of their learning styles or their learning abilities is really connected to that visual literacy and making sense of visual data. So that is something that if you give the students more visuals to work with, more infographics, maps, charts, graphs, things like that, you're going to get some better retention coming out of that. So I'm glad to see that one showing up on there quite high. Excellent. I'll give you guys just another 30 seconds or so to put your responses in. Okay, so I've got some up there. Simulations isn't dead last. I figure the high school teachers may be weighing this down a little bit. It might be a little bit higher, right? If we put the middle school teachers, I can't tell who's middle school teacher on here, so I'm looking for the smiles and the nods. But yeah, simulations definitely more regularly used in a middle school classroom. But I've used them in high school when I taught high school US history, and some when I taught geography as well, and got really solid responses and good retention from that too. So don't discount this. All right, and primary source analysis comes in at second place, and decision making at third. Okay, good. And PowerPoint's last. We know that sometimes PowerPoints are great for connecting with some information. Now, before you click on this link, I'm going to give you guys specific instructions. It's very important that you listen here. Okay, so when you click on this link, you are not going to use your Katy ISD email. It can be a totally fake email. This is where you're going to join my class as a student. So you're going to click on that link in the Menti, and you're going to register. You can use your real first name and last name, but for your email, just put your first name at lastname.com or your first name at katy.com, whatever you want to do here. Now, if several of you have the same first name and you try to do your first name at katy.com, it's going to kick one person back. But you're just going to set up a temporary account. This is student registration. So we are not using our Katy ISD email, not. And there's a reason for that, because you're going to want to have your actual Katy email attached to your teacher license. And then down here, you'll see Summer School. When you select your classes to register in, there's only one class to choose from. So you're going to choose that one class here. Thank you, Brandon. Put an example there, Brandon at Bruton.com or Brandon at Katy.com. I appreciate that support in there, Brandon. But you're going to go ahead and register as a student. And when you've completed this registration, I'm going to go back in here because I just realized that I don't think I actually shared these with. I'm going to share the US History Atlas with you guys because you won't see an atlas initially, but now that I've shared it, you will see that pop up in there. I'm going to add the World Atlas in here too. So this is in my teacher account that I'm doing this, and I'll explain this in a little more detail later. But when you log in as a student, let me go in as my student real quick so that you guys can see that we're on the same page. So I'm going to go in as my student that's registered in this class. And you probably won't have all this recent activity. You'll have nothing here, and I'm just going to delete all of these notifications so that my page looks like yours. Okay, so your page should look like this one. If it doesn't, like if you're missing the atlases, what I want you to do is just hit the refresh button, and then you should have 4 icons: assignments and grades, maps, atlases, discussions. And so as if you were already in, then I encourage you to do some exploration. Take a look at the maps, take a look at the atlases. Don't go into the assignments and grades yet, but just look at the maps and the atlases and kind of explore those for a few minutes while we get everybody in. And then I'm going to give you guys about 3 minutes or 2 or 3 minutes so that everybody can get registered. And if somebody needs some help, if you can unmute and ask for help, or you can post something in the chat box so that we can help you out. But again, you registered by clicking on the link that's in the Mentimeter, And you know what, I'm going to go ahead and see if I can grab this link, and I'll also post it here in the chat box. And again, we do not use Katy email address. Okay, and I'm going to hit post, enter that. Oops, looks like I've got another person joining us here. I don't know if she may have been booted and then got back in. Okay, if you are just joining, I'm posting this link here. Again, you're not using your Katy email. You are just using some type of fake email. You can put your first name at your last name.com or your first name at katy.com. So Brandon gave some examples in the chat, Brandon at katy.com and Brandon at bruton.com as examples here. Okay. Does anybody need more time? If you could, hit the hand raise button or put a note into the chat box. Okay, let's see here. Brandon's got put the note in there again. Perfect. Thank you. Okay, wonderful. So it looks like it is time to dig in. All right, so you guys are in as students, and what you guys can see right now is just the 4 icons, and you can click on those and open up and explore those and look at those. But for students, it's really pretty simple. Students only see what you, the teacher, give them to see. So they don't have access to go and explore everything. So they won't get lost or bogged down, or maybe there's things that you're like, well, my students really can't handle this. I don't want to give this to them. And again, you can set up individual groups. So you could create a group for your ELL students and assign them specific types of activities. You can set up something for GT students so that they all kind of have their own learning paths with that. But you guys may have gone and looked at the atlases and the maps, so I'm just going to touch on those real quickly. So when you open up the atlases, you'll see only the 2 atlases that I've given you. And these are just simple flip books. But as you guys mentioned earlier in the poll response, you did state that, kind of using maps and atlas activities and things like that are a great way to engage these summer school type learners. And I think you'll find when you open up these atlases and you take a look at them, the amount of text that's in there is not overwhelming for your kids, that the maps, you've got a lot of visual information. There's all different kinds of historical maps in this atlas in particular. You'll notice the bullet pointed text there at the top. Patriots Fight the Revolutionary War. It kind of gives a breakdown, just some bullet points. It has this great graph here at the bottom showing loyalists, patriots, and people that were neutral. And then you also have on the other side, you've got a painting, excuse me, as well as this great infographic here that shows soldier deaths, looking at the colonists versus the British there. And then some of the battles at sea. So there's not a lot that you can really do in these atlases. So they're really like a nice supplement. But you're going to find that there are activities in Active Classroom that pull from these atlases and they chunk out the information. So you might have something that just has this one map over here with some questions around it, or maybe it has the map and these bullet points and some questions surrounding that. You'll find that there are star practice types of questions when you look at the level 2. There's for Atlas activities, there's level 1 and level 2. And these are not, the activities are not found under the atlases. I'm going to show you and make sense of everything here in a little bit. But if you want to just click back on the word Active Classroom, and that will take you back to your home screen. And so those are the atlases there. You also have access to all of these different maps. So all of, if you guys are familiar, I was fortunate enough when I was in the classroom, when I switched school districts, they had Nystrom, the pull down history maps. And I use the heck out of those. use them all the time, but right here, if you open up the maps here, you can see there's some US history maps here. You've got like the Great Exchange you can pull up and some of those different items here. So you can explore those. These maps are really interactive. So the kids can actually create a gallery. If you look at the icons on the right-hand side of the screen, you can do things like split screen, the dual view. You can do a gallery. And what the gallery is a place where students can build and save things. You can have them share it with you. But what I will tell you sometimes is that the sharing of these back to you as a teacher, that means you're going to have to open, let's say 40 or 50 different individual maps and look at and give grades on. So you might use it as a student's way to practice and play around with mapping and maybe have them do a written assessment or something like that at the end. But it's entirely up to you if you don't mind going through and looking at 40 or 50 maps, or when you have 130 kids in the normal school year, going through 130 of those can be kind of daunting. So just be aware of that. There is a toolbox down at the bottom that allows you to add these little different emojis on here. So let's say you're looking at types of transportation, and obviously we didn't have airplanes back then, but some different things like that, buses here. But there's all these different icons, and this last one that has the shape of Texas has just a myriad of different emojis that you can put on there. All different kinds of symbols to help students build meaningful maps that way, but also the ability to add text. So I can say Atlantic Ocean and hit down on that one. And you can change this and resize this later here. Oops. Pulling it out there. You actually have to go into the edit here. This one. Well, I got to figure out what I did wrong in that one, but you can add that text in there as well as drop in push pins. So push pins allow students to add additional text information. They can also embed images and videos. So they can take a YouTube video, a video clip off their computer, things like that, and attach it into the assignment. So you can make a real robust presentation. So a lot of really cool things you can do with that. A couple of items here, the edit button, everything auto saves. So like if you've ever used Google Docs, everything's kind of saving as you go. This works the same way. But in the edit mode right here, notice it has a save and a cancel button. So I can drag this icon over here, but if I click off of it and I click on something else, it's going to move right back to where it was. That's because I didn't save it. So if I go into edit and now I'm going to move it and I have to hit save. So this is the only one that's a little bit different, as well as the delete button right here. So you select the item you want to delete. Again, it says save, cancel, or clear all. So if you delete something, you need to hit save, because if you don't, and you hit another button, it's going to pop right back. Okay, so that's just kind of a quick overview of some of the ancillary materials that you guys have access to with Active Classroom. But as I mentioned earlier, if you want to go ahead and click back on the word Active Classroom there. As I mentioned earlier with the Atlas activities, so anything that the student's going to do like as an assignment is going to be under assignments and grades, and they only see what you give them. So we're going to do an activity, and I know you guys are mostly US history, but that's good, because this one means that you guys probably don't have as much background knowledge as somebody that teaches world history might have. And that's what that's what we know students come with, is less background information. So if you would click on the assignments and grades, and we're going to do this one together. So the first assignment says decision-making in ancient history. Where would you settle in ancient times? A we do assignment. Okay, so I'm going to click the launch button. It's a little rocket ship there. That opens the assignment. And notice that I've given you specific instructions here. These are teacher instructions. So whenever this little box pops up on your screen, it says use highlighter tool as you read to mark items you agree and disagree with in choosing a place to settle. Those are my specific instructions. You can add in, you can do a whole page of instructions in here if you want to add some additional layers. But the students have to actively ignore you by clicking on the X to close out the instructions. But before we begin, I want you guys to look at the icons on the top right-hand side of your screen. The very first icon is going to be instructions. So those instructions just pop back up over there. The next one, paperclip, that's pretty standard. Everybody that's used Word or anything else, that's just to attach files. So you guys are probably very familiar with that. The next one, if you click on that, don't click on it right now, but if you click on it, it takes you out of the assignment and into a discussion forum. So if you're thinking about your students in summer school and you want them to engage and chat more and talk more, this would be a great place to post some questions. You, the teacher, have full control. So every time you assign something, it automatically posts a discussion where you can post questions and the kids can respond. They can see each other's responses, and it allows them to chat that way. The item next to that is the highlighter tool. So you have to highlight some text in order for the highlighter tool to work. And I did set this as a custom one. So you're going to see when you do this assignment that there's custom instructions there for you. The next one is print. So this allows you to print from a student view. You also have the ability to print from the teacher side. And then the one next to it is the text to speech. So I'm going to click on the first layer of the assignment. You'll notice here that there's nothing you can really do on this first page. So on the left-hand side of the screen, you can click on those little icons. The next one says vocabulary, right? This is something you may need to help your students with, just so you're aware of, because some students might turn in the assignment when they're done with the first page, but there's more pieces to the assignment. So this is just one little item that you need to make your students aware of so that you don't have students turning in unfinished assignments. So this is like a table of contents over here. And so kind of post it, or pose that to them like that this is your table of contents. So as you're working through, there's different sections. So rather than a next section or something like that, you just have to go on through this. You will notice that this has a level 1 and a level 2. I've given you guys both so that you could see that there's two different options for this. Level 1 is going to be more bullet pointed. See how everything's numbered right here? That's to make it real simple, straightforward for kids to just kind of go through the information, look at the bullet points, and extract out what they need. Versus the level 2 is more text rich. So the students actually have to go through, read through the information and extract what they're looking for to make sense of it. And so this is going to be more your like on level types of readers. And so we're going to talk about this here in just a minute. I'm going to have you guys actually do the level 1, not the level 2, since we have a shortened amount of time to work through this. And I want to get you guys in exploring. And then the last piece is the Code of Hammurabi. So there's a primary source document and some analysis questions here. Okay. So now I'm going to show you real quickly, and then I'm going to turn you guys loose. And I do want you to spend some time on this, think about this, read through it, highlight, and we're going to come back and we're going to engage in a discussion, and you guys are going to have to make a decision here this morning. So as you read, I asked you to highlight. So I'm going to go through and I'm going to highlight. I'm just going to highlight some text. I'm going to click on the highlighter tool, and right here, this allows you to put things you agree with or disagree with, meaning things that make you want to choose that settlement versus things that don't. So I'm going to put that there. I'm going to save that. You know what? I'm going to actually edit that there. So I'm going to click on that again, and I'm going to delete this annotation. I'm going to change that. And since I think I'm going to agree with this here. So this is something that's going to kind of lean me in this direction. So right here, I'm going to change that. I could even put some notes in there if I wanted to. And the teachers can go back and look at all this information later. They can see all the student highlights. All right, so here it is. You guys are set up, and this is in ancient times. These are some ancient civilizations, and you guys are going to read through this. And as you read through this, I want you to decide, where would you like to settle? As you look through Society A, Society B, and Society C, I want you to think about, what are the things that would make me want to live in this society? And so go through, use your highlighter tool, mark things up. And then once you're done, get down here to the bottom and you have the decision. I only want you to do question 1 and mark, select, do you want to be in Society A, B, or C? So you'll go through and you'll make that selection, but do not do the writing piece just yet. And I'll explain my reasons for that here in a few minutes. All right, so I'm going to give us about 7 to 8 minutes for you guys to read through, highlight, and make your decision. So I'm going to put my microphone on mute. And then once you have your decision, if you would post it into the chat box here in the Zoom chat box, post your decision once you get there. All right, go ahead and begin. Thank you again, Brandon, for your support. Brandon posted in there, once you decide on where you would settle, post your decision in the chat, just A, B, or C. I know you guys are still reading, so just wanted to remind you. Okay, it looks like we've got some responses already. A few different ones here. That's good. I've gotten quite a few responses already. Lots of A's and B's, no C's yet. All right, I'm hopping into my teacher page here so I can show you a little bit different aspect, something that lives in the teacher side versus, hey, all right, Felicia picked C. So somebody picked C. Thank you. Oh, Jesse even posted a response here. Okay. Jesse already started placing his arguments in here. So his or her arguments. I'm sorry. I don't know if Jesse, see on the screen. It's equal economically. Interesting. Okay. Good. Okay, we got a couple for C. All right, wonderful. Okay, just about another 30 seconds to post your response in there. And now as you guys are still posting your responses in, next thing I want you to think about, I want you to look at your highlights, the things that you marked up. And I want you to be able to kind of defend why you chose that society and give some good reasoning around like what is it about that makes you want to settle there. But then I also want you to look at the other societies and say these are the reasons why I'm against this society or I don't agree with this, and be ready to place and stand up and kind of have an argument around it. So the way I might formulate this in my classroom, and I normally when we're in person, I would demonstrate this, and I would set up, 3 spots in the room, and I would maybe put an A up on the wall, a B, and a C in different corners or different areas of the rooms, and I would ask my students to move to whichever society they agreed with, and I kind of I make them work all the way through it. And then at the very end, like I don't let them just kind of get up and move to it, because then when you have that happening, you might have some influence. Kids might see, oh man, a lot of kids are going to A. I guess we should all go to A. But they're not thinking about why. You might have them, if you have this in a printed version, you might have them bring their printed copy with their highlights on it to be ready to argue. You might have them discuss it in a small group first. So you may be sitting at a table where there's an A, B, and a C, and you have them do small group talk. And so they discuss and they give their arguments and their reasoning. You might have them write down some notes and be ready to debate. But then once you feel like the students are adequately prepped and ready to do this, you would send them to their corners and say, okay, everybody in A over here, everybody in B over here, everybody in C over here. And you'd send them over to that spot, and then you would open this up for a debate or discussion. And so I might pick on somebody here. So let's take a look at our chat box here, and you can either unmute or you can type your response in the chat box. I'm going to pick on my B's first. So Marina and Melissa, if you guys could give me a response, why did you make selection for B? And you can type your response in, and then I'm going to pick on Let's see, well, Felicia and W0510174. You guys are going to be my C's to respond. And then I'm going to pick on, let's do Teresa Gray and Bailey Priest to be my A's for your response. And then if somebody else wants to jump in too, feel free to type your response in or unmute. So let's hear from somebody from B that I called on there a minute ago. Again, you can unmute or you can type in your response. Tell me, why did you select B?
I chose B because I like the whole, can you hear me?
I can, yeah.
Yes, ma'am. I chose B because I love the sense of community. For me, like, sense of community is important. I value family in my own life. I value family over money. Money isn't everything, but love is everything to me. And so I think the community working together for a common purpose, having those stories, everybody has an equal stake, everybody has shared values. I think that's more important than anything. There's no slavery, there's nobody being oppressed. I just love that whole, I love that.
Nice, good. Good. Anybody else for B? I appreciate those responses. Those were well thought, and you made that connection to your own life and thinking about, what it means to you. And that's what we want from our students, because when you connect that emotional response to a decision that they're making or looking at it, then they're more interested to learn the actual history, the actual, well, what is society B? What are these different societies that we're looking at? I'm going to share with you that here in just a minute. But I did, as the other person for B is preparing, or another person for B is preparing their response as well. I want to show you from the teacher's side. If you can look at my screen for a minute, you'll see here that on the left-hand side, there are some new icons that show up, and notice they're in like a teal color. We have teacher's guides, student handouts, how to use decision-making, and an overview. So there's some good suggestions here. The student handouts. This is one that's a little bit unique in active classroom, and that's why I like to always kind of lead with some activity like this. And this has been one of my favorites because I feel like this one helps people kind of connect on a personal and emotional level here as well, because you're thinking about your life and your family and how would you want things to be. So when you open the handouts, you'll notice that these are print copies of what you have in the digital version. But after I get down past here, you can see there's level 2. But what the kids do not see is this going to be this next page here in just a second. I guess one more page right here are these charts. So let's say you have some really low level students that are really struggling with reading. Look at this. This is a nice scaffold that you can provide for your really struggling students. It breaks down society A, B, and C in very succinct bullet points. Very, very specific. It kind of gives the big overview. These are the main points about each one of these societies. So you might give this to your students that really struggle with reading. So this is another level, but this is only available to the teacher. This allows you to provide some of that differentiation. And then the next part right here, the outcomes. We don't provide this in the digital version for a reason. Again, I mentioned in the beginning that active classroom does not replace the teacher. We believe that teachers are absolutely crucial and necessary in being able to help students to grow and to achieve. And so we want to give you guys some control over what students are seeing here to help kind of provide that scaffolding and provide them with this here. So the outcomes, 3 societies. We don't give them the outcomes because we don't want them to be their decision to be changed or influenced by what the actual societies were. And so we're going to talk about that here in a second. Looks like I got another response here to B. So Melissa wrote there, a few people and no disease working together. I chose B because of working together. No class system. Okay, good. And now we're on to A. So Bailey already jumped in. Thank you, Bailey, for posting a response there. She said that A, powerful military and metal weapons, keep records of trade. New ideas come from trade and immigration, located on a great river, so no irrigation is needed. A unified nation, okay. A, regular food supply and easily defendable borders. Okay, yeah, those are things too. So there's definitely positives and negatives we can probably all draw away from this. I find society B to be really, really interesting to me because it's kind of like it almost has like some like socialist overtones with like the way they're doing things, but it also has like that real traditional family and community, and family being the most important thing. So it's really funny. You might have like a mix of libertarians and socialists that, that kind of agree with B, and then A, more like established safety is seen, tends to be a really big deal with why people select A. So that's good. And that regular, where your next meal is coming from, whereas in B, you don't know where your next meal is coming from. So it's really interesting to see some of the responses. So if you guys want to type in some more responses, Felicia got a response in. Thank you, Felicia. It says the inventions and innovations in society, or in the society, the people specialize in trading. So the mix of ideas and cultures, regular food supply, low-ish taxes. There's another one there. I like that in B, the no taxes, and then in C, the low-ish taxes. Yeah, those are always good things, right? Especially when it comes to tax season. Mitchell put in there, I chose B because close clan community, sharing is caring, everyone contributes equally, including women. Yeah, so women have important roles in that society as well, but you could even respond back that it's more traditional. So if one woman wants to be a hunter or something like that instead, are they really allowed to participate in that? So there's still some equality issues in there that you could probably argue. But then for the other two societies, you have other problems as well when it comes to some of those things. So again, it's that personal connection with. You might get some kids that are like, yeah, I really like the old school family versus, oh, I want equality in roles and everything like that. So all decisions are made by the family. Respect is valued. Good. All right. Anybody else want to add in any more comments? Feel free, if you'd like, to unmute or type something into the chat box before we move on and I go over the outcomes. I'll give you guys like another 20-30 seconds here. I close out the chat, and that way I get notified. Okay, so there's a response already. Awesome. B, because there are no judges, kings, or government. Families decide issues. Yes, that real localized control. Yeah, I could definitely see that being something that would be positive there. All right. Good. So let's take a look at this. And now the kids, they're like, whoa, okay, so now why do we do this activity, Miss or Mister? What was the purpose of this? Okay, so I wanted you guys to understand some of these ancient civilizations before we actually go in and study them, to look at how, drastically different they were, but how, you guys might see which society would you want to live in, so that you can make that personal connection with, okay, what does Egypt look like? Okay, society E. Now we've already got our society A. We've already gotten this breakdown here of what the society consists of. Now let's get the actual historical information. And so now it gives us the real context. And this is where the outcomes come in. Again, this is something that you would print, or you could grab as a PDF and put into your Canvas, and you guys can keep that in there as long as you guys have an active license. But then, of course, all this would have to be removed and deleted out of there if KDISD does not, keep the license, but just kind of give you that information on there. But you can grab this PDF and you can use it and post it in Canvas so the kids can look at this and reflect on it later. Or you can just go through it with them. And so it goes through the advantages and the disadvantages. Brandon says, I'm working on it. I know you are. Advantages, disadvantages for that one. Then we look at society B. Could these be the Israelites, the nomadic clans that way? There are other nomadic clans too, as well as some of the Arabic groups that traveled and were nomadic in nature. Even maybe going into like some of the Mongolian. I mean, I know that's a different region, but you could even make some of those connections with that. There you've got the disadvantages and the advantages. And then society C was Mesopotamia, right? Kind of the original, or one of the original founding societies here. So it kind of goes through and shows, there's the illustration of Babylon there, and it goes through the advantages and disadvantages. So now that, and I know you guys do mostly US history, so you're going to find that there are tons of these for US history as well. Obviously the content is different, and obviously some of the structure is a little bit different, but you will still see those handouts available in the teacher side. So when you assign it digitally to students, they're going to see just what you want them to see to get the initial context to make their decisions. and then to do the responses in there. And then again, there's the, at the end, there's a primary source activity that concludes the assignment. So if you want to take it a step further, you can do that. When you assign things to your kids, you can be very specific and tailor what you want the assignment to have. So when you go in there to assign, you would click on the assign button and be able to give it to your students and break it out into pieces. Like, let's say you only wanted them to see level 1, you could assign just level 1 or just level 2, or you didn't want to do the primary source activity, you could remove that. So there's a lot of flexibility with that. Okay, now I'm going to give you guys just a little bit of time to explore. I'm going to go back to my student account, and what I would like you guys to do for the next 15 minutes or so. So Brandon, I may pause the recording so that the people watching can pause the video so there's not like 15 minutes of silence, and then come back to it. But what I would like you guys to do is go and explore the assignments and grades. And so what you're going to do is you're going to open up assignments and grades, and I've given you a little bit of variety. So there's some Texas stuff in here. There's some US history, lots of US history. There's a couple of world history things in here, but there's 2 pages of activities that you can go through and take a look at. And what I want you guys to notice is that there are different icons. So pay attention to those icons, but also pay attention to the first part of the words right here before the colon. This tells you the name of the series. So what does that mean? I'm going to go back to the first page. The first activity we just did together is called Decision Making in Ancient History. So anything that is under decision making, you can search for and find the 150, 200 different activities that fall under decision making. Then we have the mapping US history right here. So these are all going to be similar types of activities. There's decision making again. To tell the truth plays. These are fun. I don't know if you guys have seen, there's a game show out called To Tell the Truth. They've just brought it back recently, where you have one real person and 2 fake people, and the people competing have to figure out who's the real one. And so I posted this one here on Abraham Lincoln, key decisions, history unfolding, but the icons also tell you what kind of activity it is. So, it's the little judge symbol. Those are the decision activities. The little mountains icon is going to be your visual primary source analysis. The little 2 people together, this is going to be a simulation type of activity where students are going to be role playing, or they're going to be reading through a script. So not everything in Active Classroom for the simulations is scripted. Some of them are really kind of setting students up to kind of role play. They're given some context, some background, and then they have to work through it and play out a role without a script. But this one here, the To Tell the Truth plays, are scripted. So just be aware of that. What you're going to find in here in Active Classroom, once I get you into the teacher side of things, is that there are thousands of activities you can pick from and all different ways to engage your students. Then I mentioned earlier here the Atlas of US History, Level 2. Level 2 is going to be the star formatted types of activities here. So these are great little short assessments that you can assign out that correlate to that Atlas of US History. And we'll talk about that more here. But what I want you guys to do, it's 9:20. So at 9:35, we're going to come back together. I want you guys to just go in, explore, launch a couple of different assignments. But I do want you to choose either the level 2 on the second page, either the baby boom or the European settlements. And I want you to do the assignment, but not really try. I just want you to guess, click through, click on answers, and then submit it, turn it in. Okay, does everybody understand that? I want you to turn in one of those Atlas activities on the second page. And the reason is because I want to show you what it looks like in the grade book. But then I do want you to explore at least 3 or 4 different activities before we all come back together. And I do want you to share out your thoughts and what you explored. So choose random ones in there that interest you, and we'll come back together at 9:35. So I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to pause the recording right now. Okay, welcome back. All right, so we are back, and if you were paused during the recording, if you're watching the recording, you should have used that time to go through and explore some of the assignments. that were in there. I guess I should have mentioned in the beginning that you could follow that. You could type in that link as well to join as a student, so you could explore some of the different activities and lessons that I had put in there for you to go take a look at, and you can kind of do this part self-paced. For those of you that are live, does anybody want to go ahead and share out one of the activities that you looked at and kind of share your thoughts on it? It's kind of an open-ended question there. So anybody just want to volunteer, unmute, or type into the chat? If you're typing into the chat, I can take multiple responses there. If you want to unmute, please do so now and share your thoughts.
So I did the Lincoln one about where you had to like pick which Lincoln was the true one.
Oh, to tell the truth. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, to tell the truth. Yeah, that was really good. Even for a second, I was like, which one is it? Until kind of the end where it kind of makes it distinct that obviously it's not one of the other ones. But yeah, I like that one a lot.
Yeah, those are kind of fun and engaging. So if you're looking for, some of those activities to do that, those are good ones. It's kind of nice because they are scripted, and when you're dealing with, maybe students that struggle a little bit more, giving them something like that to start off with, to kind of, before you do like a major simulation where they're having to really process information, but they could still thrive at that as well. But having that script kind of helps them be like, okay, I get how this works, and get into it. Awesome. Thank you for sharing. Anybody else want to unmute and come in? Okay, I've gotten a few responses here in the chat box. I noticed that if a student doesn't answer a question, a pop-up will notify the person that they need to go back and complete the questions. Yes, good. I really like the map activities. I like that kids had to look on the map and find specific things and label it. More engaging than having them look at a map. Yes. So if you checked out any of those mapping activities, the Civil War and Reconstruction one, the great thing about those is that, you've got that, that text that's, kind of step-by-step instructions for building it, but you're actually getting some of the historical content in there as well. So as they're building the map, and you think about it, if you have students practice building their own map, when it comes to interpreting maps on a state test, they're going to be far advanced because they've already know how to build a map on their own. They know how to put a title on. They know how to build a map legend or a map key. They understand that the visual information on there, the stamps that they put on there represent different things. And so it makes it a lot easier when they look at a map to make sense of it because they've built their own. Think about it. When you build something from the ground up, you know so much more about how to do it and how to make sense of what you're looking at. The Atlas European Settlements, really good use of maps and graphs, multiple choice mixed with comparison. Yep. And if you look at some of those, you will see some of those are multiple select, some of those are drag and drop. Sometimes you got like the hot spots, what the TEA calls those, where you have to like mark things onto a map and different things like that, as well as you will find, I don't think that I put any on there that had that example, but like the star, where you've got a reading passage and a piece of visual data, where you've got like a graph or a map or something like that along with a reading passage. There are several in that Atlas of US History Level 2 that have those reading passages along with a piece of visual data. So giving them that practice to attack those on the STAR test, I think, is really important. Using maps, charts, and pictures to analyzing skills, reading skills. You did the baby boom assignment, very good. All right, anybody else want to share? Feel free to unmute or type your response into the chat. Maybe a different activity that you took a look at. I don't know if anybody looked at the key decisions. These ones are a little bit different from the decision making. These are shorter. These would be like a great bell ringer, or when they first come in, you're introducing a topic. Using key decisions is a great one. There was this one, which one did I look at? I looked on the British Tea Act. What should we do about the British Tea Act? And I kind of attacked that one and did that one. And I thought that would be a great way to introduce all of the different intolerable acts, as the colonists labeled those. And so that would be a great way to introduce them so the kids could look at it from a colonial perspective on, how did the colonists respond to these, what were these different acts, but take on it as a role and how would it affect you as a colonist or a colony citizen. So it's kind of a great way to make that personal connection with that. And then if you looked at the history unfolding, the visual primary source information, which one did I look at? I think I looked at the American Revolution from protest to revolt. If you want to look at my screen up here, and again, if you're typing in responses, please do so and put those in there. But if you're looking at my screen now, you'll see that we've got this thing here. If we look at illustration 1, it's going to give us some background information on the document. And then we've got this primary source document here. We've got this painting. You can take it to full screen. And right here it says the destruction of tea at Boston Harbor, and some additional information there as well. And you can see everything going on in the photograph. But you also, when you scroll over top of it, there's a little magnifying tool. So the kids can really look at details. And I thought this was interesting when I was looking at this one. I noticed the looks on some of their faces of the colonists up here. And you could see that there's, some anger, some frustration on this woman's face here. You can see they have that, they're holding their hats, very, very common with what we saw during that time period in the New England area, these style of hats. But then you can also look at this here on the boat, and we see what appear to be Native Americans here on the boat. But we all know that there's more to that story. There's even people up in the windows. You can see the boxes of tea floating in the harbor. You can see them actively throwing those into and destroying them. So that's kind of a great way for students to kind of really look at the image and break down. And then down below, you'll notice there's some scaffolded questions. So the first one is just identifying facts. And then the next one is passing judgment here, looking at, using judgment to analyze the image here. When we move on to image 2, illustration 2, we see a different image. And again, this is another primary source document, a painting we can use, gives us background information on that. And then when we go in here, we see the tar and feathering of a tax collector. And again, the questions down below start off with interpreting meaning, identifying facts, then it gets into point of view. So it gets a little bit more challenging, and then making inferences and judgment once again. So you're kind of building that critical thinking as they go. So they're just pulling out some facts to start with to make sense of it before they go into that higher order thinking of making inferences. And then last one here we see is an image here looking at the Battle of Concord in Massachusetts. And we can see there's a lot of emotion going on here. We see a husband, we assume a husband, hugging his wife on the way into battle. We see this guy here ready to charge in. He's waving, maybe calling for backup. See this guy's loading his musket here. You see these guys charging in. You see all kinds of, turmoil and possibly here British soldiers, I imagine it looks like over here. And then you see colonists responding and firing back at them. So again, same thing, point of view. Then you get into interpreting meaning and drawing conclusions with this question here. So these are good. You can break these into smaller chunks. So let's say you only want to give them the introduction, which is just, excuse me, a couple of paragraphs. And then maybe just give them one image or two images to work with. You can do that. All right, any other comments before we move on to the next part of this, this training? No? Okay, well, all right, so we've gone in here together, and just to kind of show you the agenda that we have for today. I didn't show you guys this at the beginning, but we had our getting started, we had our activity together, experience looking at the tools, and then giving you guys some time to explore. I know I shortened this a little bit. I want to make sure that we have plenty of time on the other end for you guys to get in as teachers. And then we have our debrief here we just completed. I'm going to actually skip the break and move into the next part here. If you need to take a break or something, obviously you're in there, we're adults. So if you need to use a restroom, it's kind of nice when you're not in class that you can actually use a restroom when you have to, versus I remember being very far from restroom and drinking a lot of coffee and it being a challenge. So please feel free to get up and use the restroom if you need to, or get a drink of water or something like that. So, and then you can kind of come back in. You can always review and watch the the recorded session later if you need to fill in some information. So now we're going to look at a couple of things. We're going to look at the curriculum map real briefly. This shouldn't take very long at all. I'm going to show you guys some things with searching. It might take a little bit longer because I want to show you some aspects that are kind of unique. And then activity sets, we're going to spend just a little bit of time on that, actually a shorter amount here. I changed my mind on it. And then chances for you guys to ask questions, and then what it looks like, assigning, grade book, and then we're going to look at the help page and closing Q&A. So now we need to go in as teachers. So I'm going to go progress to the next slide here on Menti. And now this is very, very important. Now you are going to use your Katy ISD email address. So I'm going to post this here, use Katy email. And so I posted the link as well into the chat box. So this is your registration for your teacher account. And you'll want to select, you may not see your school on there, which is totally normal because this is a pilot. So you will see summer school. You can select summer school as your school to drop yourself in. But you are going to register now as a teacher in the Katy pilot license under summer school. Use your Katy email address. So use your Katy email address for this one. And notice that it ends with a J there. So if you see the wrong link on the screen or something like that, make sure you see the link that ends with a J. I know on my screen, it's kind of the J is at the bottom there, but use that link and use your Katy ISD email address. And while you guys are doing that, I'm going to move into my teacher page here. And so once you've done that and you've registered, you're going to come back to my screen. So go ahead and register. If you've already been, we're all getting already registered message. Oh, okay. If you could give me your email address, I can figure that out real quick. Let's take a look here. Let's see. Go into users. Sarah, if you could give me an example of somebody that has an email address that is already set up in here. I'm going to grab this first one, Marina, copy, paste, and I'm going to figure out what's going on with this. Oh, it has you in as a student. That's really strange. Okay, I'm going to fix you right now. So you're going to be in the active classroom pilot, and you're going to be a teacher. And active classroom pilot, save. So Marina, you are fixed. Sarah, I'm going to go in and fix you next. Copy. So I'm going to go back here. Okay, so Sarah, you're in as a student as well. I don't know if the system is, or maybe your computer's already like putting your emails in or something. Not certain why that is, but Sarah, you're fixed now. So you can log in if you don't remember the password. Try using your Katy ISD password. If that doesn't work, you can click on Forgot Password. So go ahead and do that. I'm going to try to go through and fix everyone here. Teresa, let me grab your email. Go back here to Teresa, copy. Paste it in here and then search. Okay, Teresa did the same with you. I don't know if it connected to your Canvas or something, and that's why it moved you to that. Okay, Teresa, you're fixed. Next, I'm going to do Robin. I'm going to fix yours. Okay, so Robin. That is really interesting. I wonder why this is happening here. Maybe your computers recognized you and used your Katy ISD email for some reason. Okay, so Robin, you should be fixed. Marina, Sarah, Felicia, I'm going to you next. I'm going to fix yours as well. Copy. paste here. You to teacher. Okay, so Felicia, you're fixed. Bailey, I'm going to move on to you. So let me go back here. Save. Okay, Bailey, you're fixed. Oh, Felicia said if you use your ID number, it works. It's telling me that my email is already registered. Kevin, if you could put your email into the chat box, that way I can fix you here. Okay, Rachel fixed it using her ID. Okay. So you used your ID at kdisd.org. Is that what you guys are doing?
I think that's the workaround. I'm not sure why it's putting them as students when they use their first name, last name at Katy ISD.
Yeah, that's odd. That's odd. So yeah, use your I guess use your ID at kdisd.org, and then that should put you in as a teacher.
Perfect.
It must be something with Canvas, possibly. Maybe it's already registered and rostered all these teachers.
Yeah.
That's possible that everybody's been rostered and that they set up their regular name as a student and their ID as teacher, because you do have the student view that you can create here. So that might be why it's doing that. Yep. Okay. All right. Anybody need more help? Are we stuck, or is everybody using your ID now to get in? So use your ID at kdisd.org. Okay, so if everybody is in, what I need you guys to do now is come back over and look at my screen. And I'm going to walk you through the couple of pieces that we talked about, and then I'm going to give you guys a little bit of time to explore as well. And we'll come back and chat about that. So over here where we have curriculum maps, I'm going to click on curriculum map. And you'll notice here that we've got all of your Texas courses. And so if I go in and look at 8th grade US history, this is a good starting point. This is not all that we have to offer. What we've done here is we looked at the TEKS, and we had, actual real people go through the TEKS, look at this, and then make sure that they assigned lessons that were connected and address those TEKS thoroughly. So right here, it tells you, so like if we look at American Independence, it says this is about a 2-week unit, obviously summer school, so it's going to look different, but it shows you all the TEKS that are to be covered during that 2-week period. And then down below here, it gives day by day the specific TEKS that you're going to want to address in this lesson. And so you can refer back to those above, and then teaching notes. So it gives you very specific instructions. It says presents students with problem 1, then decide how you would make a decision as a class. And so it gives some additional context, some additional information. So this is a great starting point because it has that broken down with the specific TEKS, with the teaching notes. So you can just kind of pick this up and go. But at the bottom, there are additional activities as well. And so a couple that we recommend, notice that they are a little bit different. This one here has a Power Basics. Power Basics is going to be very straightforward readings to help kids that maybe struggle with some things there. It's at a lower Lexile level as well, so that can be really helpful. And then there's a role-playing simulation. So this is going to be different than that To Tell the Truth play. The role-playing simulations are really engaging. They're almost like games a little bit. But the students are going to be given roles, and they're going to be given some context and background information. And then there's essentially a game that's played where they're going to have to act their role, and they're going to have to make decisions about things, and they're going to have to negotiate. They're going to have to compromise on different types of items. So those are really neat to try out, but notice it just gives you some differentiation possibilities there. Not a ton, but it gives you a few. I'll show you where you can find a ton. And we'll come back to that here in a second. But I wanted to show you that these curriculum maps are here for you, and you get them right there on the homepage. So from the home screen, you're just going to click on curriculum maps and you can see there's 8th, there's 11th grade. Again, the same thing with 11th grade. If we go to Cold War, you'll see that it has all the TEKS for those 3 weeks that it has laid out here, and then day by day instructions, week by week. This one does not have additional activities for this one in particular, but there are plenty. So don't worry about that. All right, any questions about the curriculum maps?
Yeah, quick question. So with the HB 4545, to my understanding, and I think a lot of us, the kids are going to be coming here for one of 4 4-day sessions. So what's the structure for the 4 days for the students? Or are they just going all the way from unit 1 on down until complete?
Okay, Brandon, I think you probably better answer
Yes.
the question.
So for that, we do have a summer scope and sequence that should be shared with you. That'll take you through what to focus on with those particular students. I think from my understanding, it was like there was one session of HB 45 for 1 week and another session, but I believe the students will have to complete 30 hours. So within that 30 hours, they have to get through the information. So how you structure it, to me, that's flexible. It's just as long as they get the 30 hours that they need to get their remediation based on the law.
Okay. And yeah, so that's, thank you, Brandon, for stepping in and answering that more detailed question specific to Katie. All right, so your curriculum maps are there on the home screen. So I'm going to quiz you guys on some things here in a little bit. So be ready. I'm going to call on people at random. So make sure you know where to find some of these items. Next, we're going to move on to searching. So there's a few different ways to search. So I told you that the curriculum maps were a great place to start. But over here under activities, this gives you access to the entire database. So we're talking, 4,000, 4,500 different activities that you can choose from. So right here, if I reset this, you can see that there are, how many pages down there? 219 pages of activities. So a lot to choose from. So how do you narrow it down? How do you find exactly what you're looking for? Okay, so I saw one of the topics was Cold War. So I can type in Cold War and just hit search, and it's going to give me 7 pages of activity. So a lot of different things. But let's say I want to get very specific, and I want to start with the TEKS. So yeah, keyword is a good way to search, but I'm going to kind of eliminate that right now. And let's go over here to where it says next to the word search, we see the word standards. So click on standards and you will see your TEKS here. So I'm going to go to 11th grade and state content standards right here. And I'm going to hit update. Okay, so this gives me all of my TEKS, and there's 14 pages of them. You guys have a lot of TEKS in US history. I don't even want to pull up 8th grade. You guys will probably throw things at me through the screen, I guess, I don't know. But right there's a lot of things to pull from. So you can search by keywords. So let's say you want to talk about Sputnik and you hit update. Oh, look, it shows up. So when I hit update, oh, Valerie, looks like you have a question or something. What can I answer for you? Go ahead. Valerie, you got your hand raised there. Do you want to unmute, or did you hit that by accident?
Sorry, we're all sitting here in a room and we're all kind of having the same question, which is a rephrase of the last question. Are we expected to include a certain amount of material, as in like a semester or a year, in that 4-day session, or are they just doing anything standards based, earning hours?
So it's when that the year, so it's broken down. So when I send you all the scope and sequence, that will likely give you more clarity, but also your campus admin for summer will give you all more details on how the summer school structure will be worked out for your particular campus. So for us in curriculum, we were just told to provide the curriculum structure for you all for the summer, and those more details will be provided by your campus admin.
Okay. All right. Okay, so I guess that question there is specific to Katy. So it sounds like Brandon's going to be sending you some stuff, and then campus wide, you're going to have some of those deeper discussions. So this, at least once you get that further instruction and further information, this will help you to be able to find and identify things that you can utilize pretty quickly. But what I wanted to show you guys here is that I put in the word Sputnik. Okay. Now, the reason I got this teak right here is because the word Sputnik is actually in this teak. And so if you type in a word that's not in the teaks, you're not going to find it. So now that I've done that, you can see here that we still have 219 pages. But when I click this box right here and select that teak, it now narrowed it down to everything that relates to Sputnik. And so it does break it down. There's still quite a few items in here. But let's say I want to be very specific and I want to type in like space race. I can do that. And then when I click on that, it's going to narrow it down to just a few items here. And so you can really get kind of specific right here. Or type in the word Soviet. And now we get some different choices here. And so this one kind of narrows it down a little bit further. So you see I'm using those in conjunction with one another. I'm using this box here that I highlighted where it says Sputnik to find words that are in the teaks. I can also look at the format of the teak, and you can see here though how it has the full chapter number. I wish they wouldn't do that, but they have the full chapter number. You just need to focus on the last right here, 2B. So if you want to search for a specific teak, like let's say you want to look at 8.A, you have to type it in exactly like that, 8.A, hit update, and now it's going to pull up everything with an 8 in it and an A. And so it pulled up 8A, 18A, and 28A. And so I can look at this and I'm like, oh, I want to evaluate the impact of the New Deal legislation. I'm going to select that, and then it's going to filter out everything and focus specifically on New Deal legislation. If I don't want that, I can select this one here and I'll get new changes here. So right here, notice it did keep one of them in there, but a lot of these other ones shifted and it gave us some more options with that. So that's how you can search by teaks. And then you can just narrow it down using the search bar up here to get more specific. So like New Deal legislation, let's say I wanted to, I'm going to do this here, remove this. And let's say I wanted to look at the CCC, and I hit enter. So now it's going to find just everything that has to do with the CCC. And notice it narrowed it down to just 3 activities here. And so we've got this one here on the first 100 days. And you can assign the activity out, you can view it, and we'll talk about what the select and favorite means here in just a minute. All right, some other things that are on this page here. We have my content. I wouldn't really use that very much. If you wanted to upload a document or something that the kids could go in and mark up and use the highlighter tool and things like that, you can do that and drop that in here, the text-to-speech function. I didn't show you guys the text-to-speech or the translating function. I totally forgot to do that. I apologize, and I will show you that here in just a few minutes. The quiz builder, though. Quiz builder is kind of cool. You can build, we have pre-made assessments in there, but you can grab some of the questions we use. You can add your own questions. You can copy and paste. Let's say you found something in Active Classroom that you really like, but you only want to use a paragraph from it. You can copy and paste that paragraph into the quiz builder, add your own questions to it, and send it out to students. So there's a lot of cool things that you can do with that quiz builder. So you can play around with that, explore. There's some support and help under the question mark that can guide you through some of that. And then the last one here is activity sets. So activity sets right here, and I'm going to clear this out because right now it's not showing my activity sets because I had a keyword in there that messed up my activity sets. But let's say you wanted to look at things that you could use this, for summer school, but also for next year. You can create an activity set. I'm going to call this one Summer School Day 1. Okay, so I'm going to go through and I'm going to find activities that I want to use for Day 1. So as I'm going through here, looking, you can do all the searching like we looked at earlier. I'm going to jump ahead to page 7 and I'm going to select this one. So I'm going to add this one here. I'm going to add this one. So level 1 and level 2 activity right there. And you can save this and then you can share this with other teachers. So let's say you have a friend that's at another school and you guys are doing the same thing. You can share this. When I click save, right there, it tells me well done. I click on the options, share activity set, and I'm going to get all of, oh, there's Marina. I know you're in here. Bailey, you're in here. So I can share this with you right now and just send it to you. I can give you instructions, but it's a way for you guys to collaborate across the district in different schools as well as within the school. So that's kind of a neat additional feature there as well. And again, everything I'm sharing with you guys and talking about this morning, you're going to be able to find under this question mark, which we'll explore here towards the end. So I'm going to pause now at this point, and I'm going to wait for questions specific to utilizing Active Classroom, anything that we just looked at right there. And so I'll give you guys a minute or so to type in your responses, or if you want to unmute and ask away, please do so now. All right, anybody have questions? Let's see, I didn't see anything pop up in the chat box. Okay. All right, so now I'm going to call on a random user. Sorry, I'm going to do this here. Let's see, let's go with, all right, I'm going to pick Drew or Jesse. Can you tell me, where do I find my pre-built course for 8th or 11th grade? Where would I find that? Tell me how to find that. Drew or Jesse? Oops, yeah, I guess that doesn't work with that unmuting there. Where would I find that?
Yeah, curriculum map.
Curriculum map, very good. And we find that on the homepage. So excellent, thank you for your response. Okay, when searching, let's see, I'm going to pick on somebody else at random. When you're searching, Sandy or Coach Jeremy, when you are searching through activities, how do you format the TEK if you want to search for a specific TEK? This is a challenging one. How would you format to search for a specific TEK? TEKs, I guess I should say. What could you do? I'll just put it that way. What could you do if you're looking for a specific TEKs? It sounds so weird saying TEKs as you're talking about singular. Okay, let's see what the response was. I got a response there. Put the TEKs in the keyword. Yes, not specifically put the TEKs. We're putting in what either the keyword, correct, that is found in the TEKs itself, or the last numbers there, the last part of the TEK. So let's see what, yep, keyword of content, yep. And so right here, if you're going to look for 20B, you would type in specifically 20B to do that. Very good. Okay, awesome. Thank you guys for participating. Sorry, I just like to call on people at random, keep everybody on their toes a little bit, right? Okay, so going back to where we are, we did our searching here. We looked at activity sets just briefly. And then we did our kind of our Q&A here about maps and searching. So before we go into assigning students and showing you guys the grade book, what we're going to do is go in and look at some of the other things, some of the supports that you have in Active Classroom for your students. So I'm going to select a random page Let's see, I don't want to do that one. Let's go to major page 17. No, still want to go a little bit further. Right here, I'm going to do cases and controversies, the Panama Canal. Okay, so when you are in an assignment, and students have the ability to do this, this is obviously in the teacher view, so it's showing the answers in there. You can hide the answers up here above. But what a student can do while they're working is they have this little toolbar here at the top that says enable speech. When you click on that button, it's going to open up, and this has changed. This is interesting. Okay, they must have just done an update in here. So it looks just a little bit different, but it still has everything the same in terms of what they do. So you can highlight text, and you can click on this button to translate. And so the default here is going to be Spanish. And so the kids can actually have it read to them in Spanish.
Ya a principios del siglo X o chica y se hablaba de un canal artificial que conectaría el Atlántico.
That is how you can do that here. And then over here as well, you can highlight this and you can click on, actually, let's find a specific word like technology. If the student's struggling with the word technology, they can click on that and they have the dictionary definition of what technology is. All right, and then this next one here, what is this? This is interesting, screen mask. I don't even know what this does. This is something brand new that they have not yet informed us about, so I apologize. I'm not certain what that is. Oh, that's interesting. Oh, cool. So kids can use this as they're reading to help guide. This is cool. Sorry, I'm excited. This is something totally new that they didn't let us know that this was happening. So that's cool. That allows students as they're reading to maybe just kind of lighten certain areas so it can kind of focus their reading. That is interesting. And then this is new as well, enlarge text. Okay, so you can enlarge the text there. And let's see what this does. Oh, cool.
As far back as the early 60s.
Okay, so then that shows the text in a larger format up there. So that's cool. Okay, then over here under settings, you've got translation. Which I should have turned that off there.
Spanish.
But you've got, whoa, a lot of new languages. Very interesting. Okay, so we have a lot of new languages in here, even Luxembourg. That's fascinating. Okay, so they did some updates here. I'm going to turn that off because that's why I kept doing that. Whenever it's highlighted in pink, it will continue to read. So there under the settings, there are a few things you can do. You've got general, so you can change the voice speed if you want to make it slow. You want to make it fast, you can do that. The text highlight, so maybe you have students that maybe like to have a different background color, especially with like students that are dyslexic, this can be beneficial to them to have different colored backgrounds along with different colored text that can be helpful there. So yeah, we've got different text magnifiers. So students have maybe are vision impaired. They have the ability to change that as well. Some of the screen tools here, they can change the background color, the reading highlight color. So there's some different options here for the screen mask, background opacity. I believe how I say that. It has to do with the word opaque. So I believe it's opacity right here, reading light opacity, reading light height. So they can adjust all of these things as they go through. And again, that's brand new. So that was kind of interesting for me to discover. They normally tell us when this stuff happens, but sometimes they don't. So over here, you've got this question mark, and this question mark can help you work through all of these pieces of information. But yeah, so that was the assignment there, and they can work through that assignment. So you can open up any assignment. You've got that text to speech button. You've got the printer button, the assign button here for the teacher as well. All right, any questions about that tool that I just shared with you? No? Okay, let me go back and check my agenda to make sure I'm staying on track and pacing properly. Assigning to students, gradebook. Review of help page, 5 minutes. Okay, so now we're going to spend some time going into how to assign things to students. And this does take a little bit longer because there are some really unique things that you can do. So let's say you are doing, let's use one of my classic examples here, Thomas Paine. I'm going to do common sense. So I'm going to find everything that has to do with Thomas Paine and common sense. All right, so I'm going to find this one here, and I like this great documents. So I can assign it right from this page by clicking on the little head and shoulders, or I can click on the eyeball to go in and view the assignment. I always recommend that you go in and view the assignment prior to assigning. So we look at this here, there is some background information. It's just a few short paragraphs. And then you've got vocabulary listed out right here. I do want to mention something here when we talk about teacher moves. So like earlier when you guys did that assignment with me, some of the teacher moves that I identified were, highlighting. So interactive reading. So where the students are reading with a purpose, they're looking for specific things. And then I also gave you that teacher move of how to maybe set up discussion, to do that small group discussion first, then separate the room out and move into a larger whole group discussion. And then having students go back. And one thing I forgot to mention there at the end is I never have them do that reading piece or the writing piece where they have to justify why they made their decision until after they've had time to process that information. So as you work through each of these different assignments and activities, as you assign these out, think about how would you use this as a teacher? Where would you insert turn and talk? Where would you insert maybe talk, read, talk, write? Where would you insert maybe where students are doing some type of presenting or asking questions or posing their own questions. So those are the things you want to think about when you're looking at assigning something. So this one here is going to give us a little bit of background information, then some vocabulary. You might have them do an activity with this vocabulary, have them identify maybe 7 to 8 words and I don't know, draw a picture that represents that vocabulary word, or maybe use it in an example of how that vocabulary word would be applied in something in their own lives or something in current situations in the United States, something like that, or around the world. So that might be a good way to do like a teacher move with this one. So that we look at that, and then we have the document itself. So we've got our background information, our vocabulary, then we have the actual document. And so the document gives us here several paragraphs. Now, remember with students, we want to probably do some chunking. When you give students a large amount of text, you want to give them those very specific tasks. Okay, we're going to read for 10 minutes, and these are the paragraphs I want you to read, and these are the things I want you to highlight. So as you're reading, I want you to highlight and look for these words. You'll notice that the vocabulary is explicitly highlighted there in the kind of teal color that they can refer back to the vocabulary. So if they get to the word, it says, because a child has thrived upon milk, what does that mean? I go back to my vocabulary, I scroll down and I see, oh, thrived, grew well. Okay, so that children have grown well due to milk, and then they continue reading. Roundly, well, I don't know what the heck they mean by roundly in this one, so I go back here and I look at it. Roundly means in a forceful manner. Okay, so having that information can be useful for the students as they're tackling this. And so maybe you have them do some highlighting, looking for maybe loaded comments or something like that, since we know that Common Sense was a document that was written with propaganda in mind, right? Thomas Paine had very specific reasons, and it does explain that and talk about that in that pre-reading piece there, the context. So you might have students, as they read this, look for loaded statements, look for things that are influenced by bias. So that would be a good way to use that teacher move. And then you can set the highlights for students as they read to mark things that are loaded statements. So you'll notice there's that, and then there's some comprehension level questions here. So as you go through, and you'll see there are other parts to this assignment. So this one is comprehension level, so real base level. You look at the critical thinking questions next. Again, we get here into purpose and some things like that. Maybe you choose to use this, maybe you choose not to use this piece. Making connections. This one I think is really good because specifically with these, it's usually like making connections with other things in history. So not necessarily with their own lives for this one, but instead they're connecting. And you think about, I'm sure you guys have been in PDs where people talk about these big themes, right? So this is a great way to tie back some of those themes if you're talking about revolution or you're talking about, the big theme, the big idea of what is revolution. This could tie back to that. And so this asks students to tie to other events in history that they're familiar with. So maybe they've already done Texas history, and we know that the TEKs may be changing here. We don't really know here in the next couple of years what they're going to look like. But as of right now, they probably already studied the Texas Revolution, even though that's further in history than the American Revolution. They already have that concept of what revolution looks like. So they could tie that here. Were there any books that were significant around that? Maybe not, but there were definitely some thoughts around that and some letters that had been written. You think of, William B. Travis and his letter at the Alamo. That could be something that they could put in here. So even though it says books, you could say writings or pieces there, and that would help them make those connections. Then this next part right here, this relating to our past lives. So I like this one because this is where it does that, specifically calling out, have you ever been influenced? And you could say, this one says book, but you could even replace that and tell the kids tweet or post, social media post, TikTok video, whatever you want. You can fill that in here and say, have you ever watched a TikTok video that changed your opinion on something important to you? So that would be a great example of where students can make that connection between things that are current and how these ideas of revolution or these ideas of influence and bias or propaganda are still relevant today. So that makes that great connection. I'm telling you, I love this series, Great Documents, because I love this piece, the relating the past to our lives. I think when students make sense of it in their own life and where they see examples of it in their own lives, it helps them make sense of, oh yeah, okay, common sense. So common sense, I know what that word means. I know what that term means, common sense. Oh, this person has common sense or no common sense, but what did it mean for this? And it talks about Thomas Paine. Well, is it really common sense or is it propaganda? So I think this series is great for that. So Great Documents. I'm sorry, I just got on a little soapbox there talking about that because this is just one that I like. So now I'm going to go on to click on the little head and shoulders. And this is where I'm going to assign the activity. So now that I've gone through the activity and I forgot to look at the essay question, the great thing about this is if you forget to look at something or you don't remember which items you want to assign, you can click on the words and it gives you a preview. Okay, and so here it gives some essay suggestions. You know what? I'm not going to have them do an essay. This is summer school. We don't have time to write real long essays. So I'm just going to cut that one out. And, I like the critical thinking, but I think more importantly, I want to focus on the making connections with other pieces of history as well as to their own lives. So now that I've done that, I've broken this out and I'm only assigning just pieces of this lesson. So I go ahead and I mark summer school. I select that as my class. You can select these groups. So you notice I created my groups, ELL students, intervention, SPED, tutorials. I can assign to individual students or whole classes. I can set a due date. I can set an unlock date. I can show points or percentage. I prefer percentage because I am not a math teacher. Over here, notice there are two boxes, one above, one below that you can check. I want my students to be able to retry after they submit. Okay, makes sense. Maybe I'll give them another shot to do it. You can always unlock a student and give them another chance, but you have to do that manually unless you click this box. So this allows students to do a retry. You can also select this button, show students the correct responses after submitting. However, I would not check both of these boxes at the same time, or all of your students will be getting hundreds unless they're just extremely lazy, because this shows them all the correct responses and this one allows them to retry. So select only one or the other is my recommendation, but you can do whatever you want. Then here, this is where you give those specific instructions. So as you read the actual primary source, and that's going to be part 3 right there. So it's common sense. You can see there's the common sense, vocabulary, and then Thomas Paine, Common Sense, 1776. You can reference that specifically here. Highlight loaded statements and tell me why you think that it is. Okay, so now I've given my students specific instructions, but I've told them to highlight with specific information. So now I go here to my custom highlights. Okay, when will the students be uploaded into active classrooms? So you'll actually be able to do that here in just a few minutes. I'll show you guys how easy it is to turn that on. I don't know, Brandon, do you know if they are going to be rostering automatically, or are they just going to have them do it through Canvas?
I believe they should be rostering automatically, but I have to check with JT, not JT, with
Okay.
someone from
Jay Sonnenberg?
yes, Jay.
Okay. Great. So Brandon will reply back to you with that. Okay, so right there, I've set my custom highlights. I removed all the other ones that had some generic ones in there, like supporting evidence. It had, geographic terms, things like that. But now I'm going to put in here loaded statements. And so that's it. I've done that. I've set custom highlights. So I'm giving my students reading with a purpose. I might choose to go, you know what? In the first section, I also want them to highlight something else. And so I can preset those as well. And you can do multiple in here. You can add a bunch of these different custom highlights here. You've got a lot of different colors to choose from. So it gives you 13 different options. I really doubt you're going to use 13 different things when you're doing an assignment. Maybe if you're reading Wilson's 14 points, you'll be short one. So I don't know if you would probably do that. That would probably be a little bit crazy, but so that's how it works. And then once you hit save assignment, it automatically pushes into your students' accounts. Oops, it says I already have this assignment in there. So I've got to change the name of it. So it tells me that I already have this assignment put out. So I'm going to put a -1. So that'll allow me to save it as this assignment. It gives me a well done. And here's my LTI link for Canvas. So that is right there for you. And we are doing some deeper integration with Canvas. I thought it would be ready by yesterday, but it sounds like it may be taking just a little bit longer. But you do have integration with Canvas. So let me show you now, now that I've shown you how to assign things, I would like to show you how to connect your Canvas. So if you want to go to your teacher page and you want to click on your name, you'll click on your name and you will scroll down to where it says connect to your Canvas account. It gives you options for Google Classroom or Canvas. Since Katy uses Canvas, you'll want to select connect your Canvas account. So I'm going to connect that, and I don't have access to that, so I can't do it, but you guys would do that. You would connect, and then when it asks you to sync. So what you'll do is you'll hit the sync button and then let it sit for about a minute and then hit the save button. So let's all do that now. And then we can check and see if it pulled in your summer school classes, if those have already been set up or not. All right, so if everybody would connect to your Canvas account, and then once you do connect, another button will show up on the right-hand side that says sync. It looks like there's a comment. The students have to complete the same process as well, connecting to their Canvas as well. All right, thank you, Mitchell. Yes, so the students do have to connect to their Canvas account as well. So they would do it the same way that you're doing it now. I believe that's going to be changed once the final integration takes place. I'm not 100% certain on that. I was just informed that we're going to do some deeper integration with Canvas. So that should look a little bit different. Hopefully here in the next week or two, it should be a lot simpler to do. But for now, yes, the students will, if they're not showing up in Canvas, they can sync and connect to Canvas as well. And they do it the same process. They click on their name and they connect their Canvas. Thank you for bringing that up, Mitchell. Okay, so you should have synced, and hopefully by now your classes now have synced. So hit the save button and let's go back to your home screen. So click on the word active classroom at the top of the page, go back to your home screen and check your classes by clicking on manage students. And you should see all of your classes in there, and that will indicate whether or not you have your rosters in there. But if you're syncing and you don't see your classes in there and then you get confirmation that your classes have been added, simply go back, click on your name and hit that sync Canvas again. And then once you do that, your new students and classes should populate if they don't already populate. I know they still could be, you know, solidifying rosters. So just be aware of that. All right, any questions for me? Everybody in the right spot? Hopefully everybody's connected their Canvas. Okay, great. Now, if you still need some help or something, please post it in the chat. But we're gonna move forward. So if you wanna come back to my screen for a minute, you should see the Word document on the screen that has our agenda for today. So we looked at assigning to students, and we're gonna go into gradebook next. Let's see, it says when I hit save, it says, oops, password confirmation does not match your password. That is strange. When I hit save, is that in Canvas or is that in Active Classroom? Active Classroom. When I hit save, it says, oops, password confirmation does not match password. Is anybody else getting that issue? Did you possibly change your password? Because you probably want it to match what the Canvas password is. So you can actually edit your profile by clicking on your name, and you can change your password to match what is in Canvas, what your password is for Canvas. That would probably be a good way to do that. So just click on your name, and then where it says password, put in your Canvas password here and hit save, and that'll update so that you have your passwords match. And that should take care of that. Okay, I'm not hearing that anybody else is running into that. So if you are, let me know. But if you can, come back to my screen here for just a minute, and we're going to go into the gradebook. And then I'll pause to see if we have questions about anything I showed you guys. So now let's go into the gradebook. And I had asked you guys to submit some of those things for the US history, the Atlas of US History. So you can see here in my gradebook that I can select here by classes. So I'm going to go to my summer school and I'm going to search the summer school one here. So when I do that, it now pulls just my summer school. So I've got 2 pages of activities. And I am under manage assignments. So if you look at the top of my screen, you see a manage assignments and a gradebook. You are going to spend most of your time when grading in the manage assignments. Gradebook is simply like a gradebook where you record the actual grade. In this case, it records the grade for you, but you just have to do one thing, which is publish the grades in order for your students to see them. And we do have gradebook passback with Canvas. So once you hit that publish button, it shows up in Canvas.
So quick question. So the students are the ones that are going to be able to see all this content in Canvas. We won't necessarily have a tile in Canvas for us to see, because like I went to my Canvas and I don't see it. It's just going to filter to the students' Canvas. Is that correct?
So somebody there that has worked, Mitchell, I believe you had worked with that.
Ian was
some.
able to work with it and kind of play around with it for us. So can you share what it will look like for teachers?
I don't have a Canvas account, so I can't do that, but where does it show? It shows up, I can't remember the terms that you guys used where it shows up, like in your.
Because for me, I'm unable to duplicate because I don't have students rostered to me.
So one way that you can you can do that is you can actually grab the link. Oh wait, somebody posted a reply in here. Oh, they're explaining it to him. Okay, great. I know that it kind of gets, you get a lot of feedback in the computer lab there with everybody's computer on as well. So, okay, there's another way to also do this. Remember, I showed you guys that Canvas LTI link. So right here, you can just grab this link. So this link always lives in your grade book. So under manage assignments, you've got launch, you've got grade, you've got edit, and export and delete. Export is simply that link for Canvas. So there's a copy and paste, and I'll show you guys when we get to the question mark, it has specific instructions for Canvas. So just be aware of that. And it shows you exactly how to post it into Canvas so that you should see it in your assignments, and students should also see it in their assignments, if that's the correct term to use for Canvas. Again, having not had a Canvas account, I wish they would give us a practice account, but they don't. All right, so that's where that lives. So now let's talk about these different icons and what they mean. So you've got the launch. This simply lets you go in and look at, if remember how I showed you earlier, I'm going to actually pick on myself here. And I'm going to look at which activity was. It was key decisions, the T Act. So I'm going to launch this activity. This allows you to see it from the student view, but still have some of the teacher controls there on the left. And you can toggle between your students. So you can actually see what your students are doing in real time. So my Jason student right here, I'm going to switch to myself. And I can see it takes me right to where my student had left off. And so I had gone back as a student and I had gone back to the original page, and I can see my responses right here in the assignment. So you can see my answers. And when I click on the decision here, you can see that I made some selections, but I didn't type in a written response giving my reasoning. And it shows what time it was turned in. So it shows that while you guys were doing your exploration as students, I submitted mine and turned it in at 9:27 a.m. So that is how you would view as a student. So I'm going to go back here, and I'm actually, you can see I can toggle between all the students. And now I'm going to actually go back to a different assignment. And I'm going to show you my decision-making one here. And you can see where I did all of my highlights. And let me just pick on somebody just to see if we did any highlights in here. It takes me where. Yep, this is great. Thank you, Bailey, for doing your marking up here. And we can see that Bailey has gone through and she highlighted all the things that she agreed with and selected Society A. And in my teacher moves, I did forget the last part. I didn't forget it, but I left it off for time's sake. But I would have my students go and do that writing justification after they've had time to process the information, hear from the other students, hear from the small group, think about it, hear the different reasonings, and then go back and give their written response, and you get better responses that way. So Bailey did mark this up, and I can click on hers and I can say, great job. Or maybe the student put some information here, the student's annotation, so she didn't write any responses in here, just says agree with. And so I'm just going to put great job on that one. But you can see it gives a little notification bell right here. So it shows up. And so if Bailey goes back into the assignment, we'll see that they have a notification. They can see the teacher feedback. So that allows you to give feedback in real time, which I think is extremely useful. Students can see how they're doing. You can maybe redirect them, get them back on task, different things like that. So that is how you can look at individual student work. And now we're going to look at the grading aspect. So that was the launch, and that allows you to monitor students in real time. That allows you to give feedback about their annotations and their highlights. And now let's look at the grade button. So I'm going to click on grade here, and we're looking at the Atlas of US History. And notice it gives me some filters here. And so it filters right to Anne, and Anne already, I can see, great job, Anne, 19 out of 19. Now you did, I'm guessing that you didn't guess on this assignment, that you actually worked through it. Either that or you are extremely lucky and probably should go play the lottery today. Right here, we got filter by status. You can filter by turned in, not turned in, graded, not graded. Now let's look at the drop-down menu and check this out. When you click on that, it shows you, that gives you a little color-coded key, and it tells you which students have been turned in and which have been graded. Here's my warning to you. This is wonderful. However, if you give an assignment that has things that are auto-graded and things that you have to manually grade, like a written response, just because it says graded, you need to remember, oh, I need to grade the written response. And so you'll have to go back there, and let's take a look and see how terrible I was. I'm going to click on myself, and I did randomly guess, and you can see, oh, I did not do so well. I got a 5 out of 19. Oh, but look at this. There's a chance for me to give a new attempt. So I'm going to say, take your time and read the question, analyze. Okay, so I'm going to do that. I'm going to click on new attempt. And right here, I can select more students if I want to, but I'm just going to select myself and hit save. And now Jason has a new attempt. So he'll get a notification and he'll be able to open up his assignment and go back to it. Okay, so that's the auto grading function, or the auto grade right there. Let's go back, and I'm going to try a different assignment now at random. Let me see if I can find somebody else. Go back here, oops, assignments and grades. And so I'm going to go back into my assignments and grades, and I'm going to open up, let's do to tell the truth. I'm going to grade this one, and let's see if we have anybody that's turned it in. So I click here. Okay, so I didn't ask you guys to turn this one in, but I wanted to just show you what it might look like from a different perspective. Did anybody turn in a different assignment other than one of the Atlas activities? Did anybody, if you could just post that in the chat real quick, which assignment it was, just give me a keyword or something like that to find it here. Let's look at the mapping, because I know some people got into the mapping. So let's see if anybody turned that one in. Okay, did not. Okay, so you guys may not, it doesn't look like I got any responses there, so you guys may not have turned it in. But what you will see when you get these other ones that don't auto grade, so like maybe the to tell the truth plays, this one right here, when you open it up, you'll notice that there are written responses, so it's not going to auto grade this. And so what it would show is if the student had turned it in, there would just be that green turned in box, but no blue graded box next to it. So that's how you would be able to identify. And you can simply just look at it here. It gives you the question, the expected answer, and then the student's response right here. And right here, this person was not able to get to this one, or they skipped this one, which again, I told you guys to randomly select, so that's totally fine. But right there is where you would see all their answers and information. Okay. So I talked about the launch, I talked about the grading, I talked about the link, the external link. Now let's look at the edit. This is really, really simple. So if you forget to do something like, oh, wait, I wanted them to have the custom highlights, or I wanted to make this be percentage, you can simply just go back here and select that. And then you just hit save assignment, and it just tells you well done. So now it's in there, and look, it gives you that LTI link again for Canvas. But again, that link always lives in your under manage assignments. Okay, the last thing I need to show you in this is the gradebook. So I'm going to click on gradebook, and remember, you are not going to spend much time in here at all. So you can see I have all of my assignments. I'm going to select summer school just so I only filter my summer school classes right here. And you can see, looks like Ian did the World Atlas here, then the Texas Interactive Mappings, looks like Jesse and Robin. And I'm going to come over to my other activities that I know people had completed. These are Atlas of US history here. So it looks like a lot of people did this one. So this was the baby boom one. And so I'm going to go ahead and publish this, even though Valerie and Ian, they chose to do the other one instead. And so I'm going to go ahead and publish this. Now, when you click this box and you hit publish grades, it's going to publish now for your students. Let's say Marina comes back and says, hey, I forgot to turn it in. Can I turn it in real quick? It's real simple. You just click unpublish. Okay. And then she turns in her assignment and you click publish again and it goes back. But I believe it sends you a notification when a student tries to turn something in that when the assignment's already been published, or it stamps it as a later thing. So just be aware of that. Know that that's here. This is how they see it in Canvas. And so they'll click on that. You have to publish the grades in order for them to see those grades populate into Canvas. All right, I've covered a lot of information. I've covered assigning and I've covered gradebooks since the last time we had a Q&A. So let's spend about 4 minutes. And if you have questions, you want to unmute and ask, or you want to type your questions into the chat box, please do so now so I can answer those questions about that. If I get nobody giving me questions, then I'm going to pick on random people and we'll do another pop quiz again. So there's my incentive to not be bothered, right? Let's see. Okay, I'm going to pick on Bridget and Valerie. Bridget and Valerie, if you could, one of you give me a response here. How do you find the link to embed into Canvas? Where does that show up? And there's 2 possible answers for that one. So Valerie or Bridget, tell me, where would the LTI link for Canvas be found? 2 possible answers. You can give me kind of a roundabout way to do it. Where would the LTI link be found? See some people wanting to respond there. Okay, I'll open it up. Can anybody else give me the answer?
It's under assignments and grades, and then you push export, you can get the link.
Very good, very good. Okay, so yeah, export link right here. This is where.
So I'm sitting in a room though with people that don't have a list of assignments, so they couldn't see that option. I just happened to, because I was one of the pilot schools in the spring.
Oh, gotcha, gotcha. Awesome. Okay, yes, that's very true. Yeah, if you've not assigned anything, then you're not going to see it there on your screen. So thank you, Valerie, for answering that. Okay, and then the next question, when you are assigning something, how do you assign? What do you click on to assign? You can give me just a description of it. I'll just open this up for anyone that wants to pick this. So how would you assign? What button do you click on to assign? Just give me a description of what the button is and or where you might find it. All right, got a response here. The head, yep, the head and shoulders. Very good, thank you, Melissa. Okay, so if you're looking at my screen now, when you are searching for an assignment, you simply click on the head and shoulders here, or you can go into the assignment and that same little thing lives right up here in the top right-hand corner. So you can assign from in the assignment or from the search page. So search page over here, I can assign directly from here, or in the assignment itself, it's the little head and shoulders right there for assigning an activity. Okay. All right, very good. So I just wanted to make sure that everybody had an understanding, and sometimes practicing with that and giving you guys those questions forces everybody to go back and go, okay, well, how do I do that again? And you look at it again, and then it sticks a little bit better. You know, repetition, I think, is really key when learning something new, getting to practice and try things over and over again. So thank you guys for participating and responding. All right, so if there are no further questions, I'm going to go into talk about the last portion right here, which is the question mark. So you can click on the question mark with me and you can go in and see what we have to offer you. So here we have things like user guides. There's a user guide for both teachers and for students, as well as admins. So you can see the teacher user guide. These are really nice and straightforward. It's all screenshots, so it gives you like very specific, click here, do this, do this. Same thing for students, it's very simplified, it's all screenshots, and same for administrators. Next, you have video tutorials. So you have your teacher video tutorials right here, titled video tutorials. You will see this, and you will see the student help videos. Your students will only see the guide for students and the student help videos under their question mark. So their page looks different than yours. So they will, I believe all they see is maybe the contents, students user guide, and student help videos. And I think that may be all, there may be some FAQs and things like that as well for students, but theirs looks a little bit different. You, however, have access. Let's say you really want to dig in over the summer. Like, let's say you use this a little bit during summer school and you're like, okay, this was cool. I want to find out more. I want to really be an expert in active classroom. I want to know how to use this, getting ready for next year. So you click on the AC 101. This is a self-guided course. We do have an actual human being that will work with you and send you emails from time to time, just checking in, seeing if you need help. You can respond to them, and her contact information is in there. And AC 102 is more focused on differentiation. So how do you use active classroom to differentiate? So the first one is like, how do I become really proficient? The second one is, how do I now implement and strategize how I'm going to address my individual student needs? Then below that, you will have your Canvas LTI instructions here. And then these are some additional things for other programs. Then there's some FAQs here. These are the activities, assignments, and grades, managing students' discussions, and then series and active classroom. So let's say this is kind of a useful one, I think. So as you scroll through these, you'll see sometimes they're embedded webinars. So like this one here on the C3 inquiry, these are awesome lessons. They're really rigorous, but really engaging as well. There's a webinar that's available for that. A webinar here for conquering close reading, if you want to really help students that struggle with reading. So you'll see some webinars embedded in here, but this gives you a description of what each of these has to do with, gives you a brief little overview. So that can be helpful as well. Okay, going back to the home screen again, I just use Active Classroom. You click on the A, you can click on the 3 dots over here to navigate around it anywhere with one click. I just prefer to go back to my home screen and see the big icons here. So I've pretty much covered everything. We talked about activities. This is where you find the meat of the program, MEAT. This is where you find like all of the content, the lessons, assignments and grades. This is where you do your grading. Maps and atlases are both ancillary, great little visual in nature types of things you can use in your class. Manage students is where you create groups, where you check your classes to make sure your students are all in there. Discussion forum, we didn't really go into this much, but every time you create an assignment, you have a discussion forum that's created. Usage reports, these are kind of for you if a student says, oh man, I was working in there all day, and you open it up and you do pull a quick usage report and you're like, yeah, you were in there for 3 minutes. So you were not in there the whole day, and just kind of a way to keep students, hold students accountable. Professional learning, we're going to talk about that one last. Student view right there, this just allows you, it kind of creates a student for you to like, so you can go and kind of peek back and forth and look at what it looks like for your students in Active Classroom. And then we did talk about the curriculum maps with the day-by-day instruction, TEKS aligned and all that. So there's that. All right, so now let's go to professional learning. Okay, so professional learning, you've got some different topics here. These are courses that you can join in and talk with different educators around the country. So those are some items you can look for in there. Webinars. This gives you all of our previous webinars, and it sometimes lists the upcoming. I'm not sure why it's not showing our upcoming webinars right now, but you can see some in here. And I believe we have a celebrity in our midst. Brandon, you did a webinar or two for us, didn't you?
I did too. I did one on instructional coaching and another one on the Harlem Renaissance.
Oh, awesome. Yep, I knew we had a celebrity in our midst here. But yeah, we invite educators to submit proposals. So if you get in, and it doesn't have to be focused on active classroom. As you heard from Brandon, he submitted one on instructional coaching. So that was not specific to active classroom. And the one on the Harlem Renaissance, I don't know if you maybe used one of the lessons from active classroom when you did your Harlem Renaissance webinar, but it doesn't have to necessarily connect to active classroom. We post a variety of topics. We love hearing from educators. We love hearing unique ideas, people pitching us all kinds of things. There's another one of my good friends here from Houston ISD, Dr. Montre Rogers, released a book called Discover, Develop, and Deploy, Discovering Your Why, which is a fantastic book on kind of coaching and building teacher capacity and helping people to grow professionally. It's a fantastic book. I'm actually on my second read of it right now, going through highlighting and marking things up. I feel like I process better that way, kind of like our students, right? Scout mindset. I mean, there's just so many different types of things. Sometimes they're content based, sometimes they're strategy based. Just a lot of wonderful topics that you can go. You'll get emails from us. So look for Social Studies School Service to send you emails or invite you to different webinars. And then the last piece here is the micro credentialing. This is something that we offer free to all active classroom users. This one is a little bit more intensive. I don't know if anybody's been certified in like Google or certified in Word or something like that, where you get the little badges that you can add to your emails. That's what we do with this, but it's focused specifically on social studies strategies. So this one here, teaching argumentative writing in grades 6 through 12. Specifically for social studies. So these badges, what we do is we provide you with, okay, these are the strategies here. You start off with, okay, now go out and practice, do this with your students, provide student work, and come back to us. And we do have somebody that'll communicate with you. And then we provide you with research and strategies to go and look at, and then try to implement those strategies and that research in your classroom, and then do like a comparative written response where you're looking at how things rolled beforehand, how things rolled afterwards, providing examples of student work beforehand and afterwards. So where you can really kind of build that micro credential. You can get something you can kind of add to your resume, add to your email tagline, showing that you are growing professionally. Maybe your principal will even give you credit for that towards like PD, but that's something you would have to work out with your principal for probably campus-based decisions, I imagine, on that one. So check out the micro credentials. Those are really new and really neat, and great way to kind of grow professionally as well. All right, so now we've come to kind of the end of our time together today. And now I'm going to leave this time for questions. So anything specific to active classroom that you guys have questions about, and anything kind of campus related or Katy ISD related, maybe save that till after I hop off here. So go ahead, anything specific for active classroom? Thoughts, feelings, questions? Go ahead and toss all those out towards me if you don't mind, in the chat box or unmute. Now, as you guys are typing in your questions or your thoughts and feedback, I will just kind of mention some things. So today we covered a lot of information, and hopefully I gave you guys some time to practice on your own to where you feel comfortable. I know I gave you more time to practice as a student, I felt like it was important for you guys to see the value for your kids and how it can help them. And then kind of some of the other stuff we did, me showing you and modeling for you how to use those things, but also pointing you back towards that question mark right there for anything that you need to, anything you still have questions about. And you can refer back to this webinar as well. But hopefully you guys found this valuable, and hopefully you found some ways that you can utilize this program in summer school. All right, well, I'm not getting any questions in here. So I'm going to go ahead and wrap up and just say thank you guys so much for your participation today. I got to thank you. Oh, thank you. I appreciate your participation. And if you guys have any questions, I'm going to drop my email address, jason@socialstudies.com. jason@socialstudies.com is my email. It's the most wonderful email I've ever had because it doesn't involve my very complex last name, Ihlenfeld, IHLENFELD. So it's just Jason@socialstudies, makes it really, really simple. So if you have any questions, you need some additional help, there's that. And then I'm also going to post in here my cell phone. So if you have questions, you want to text me with questions or reach out with anything, you can call, you can text. Sometimes text is a really fast way to get me because I might be in a training or something like this. Like I got a message actually just a little bit ago from a teacher that had questions about implementing something. So I just responded back real quickly while you guys were doing your exploration. But feel free to reach me either of those ways. All right, y'all. Thank you so much. Brandon, I guess I will turn it back over to you. I'm going to go ahead and stop the recording.
Yes, sir.
Anything else you want to?
So for logistical purposes for you all, I believe you all will be meeting with your admin team today. The last